Who you gonna get to riff those tracks? I don't have a big tracks, but a riff song is in. Why you always gotta pick RiffTrax? It's your lucky day, it's time for RiffTrax.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't have to get angry if you people would just stop making pretzel bags so hard to open without breaking the pretzels!
Whoa, take it easy.
Not mad. Just disappointed.
Have you ever been as angry as Susan seems to be right now?
I don't think anyone ever has.
Remember how quickly it happened? Right in the middle of the game.
The game Jump Roping Peasants.
And how you wished, as Paul does, that you could take your anger out on the person who made you angry.
Really cleanse the earth with fire and blood.
Oh, no!
And have you too felt like throwing things or breaking them? As Carol does because she's angry at her sister Susan and at Priscilla.
Priscilla, she ruined so many lives.
Gets angry now and then and feels like destroying or hitting something, as Eddie is doing.
My novel sucks.
Feeling angry is a natural thing, just as natural as feeling glad or sorry. But angry feelings are disagreeable.
Stuff them down, way down into the dark place and save them for later.
But let's go back and see what made these boys and girls angry. Then maybe we can better understand what happens to us when we get angry.
Oh, it's simple. We scheme for a while and then get even.
I don't think
It all started in the park, when Susan and her sister Carol and their friend Priscilla were having a good time jumping rope.
Suddenly, Priscilla pulled a knife.
You missed! I didn't! I said I didn't! I saw you! It's not your turn anymore! It's Priscilla's turn now! You take her in!
Got to Priscilla and she morphs into Al Pacino from The Devil's Advocate.
It's on purpose. My turn. It isn't Priscilla's.
The argument with Carol made Susan very angry.
Stop the film now and pull the hair of the person next to you to make them angry too.
Angry. And so, when Carol refused to give in, Susan quit the game and went home.
And torched it, parked across the street, laughing, watching it burn, all Halloween orange and
Nestled
chimney
down on
red.
the soft couch and tried to forget her anger. But somehow her feelings of anger didn't go away, and Susan could not read or think of anything she wanted to do.
Well, this being the 50s, there were only three
trouble
things
was
to do.
That Sue's anger was still bottled up inside of her. She felt as though she were bursting with unhappiness.
Bursting with unhappiness is how you feel if you eat at the wrong
She get rid of
Chipotle.
her anger.
Or the right one.
Let's listen to what she has to say to Carol.
Susan, may I borrow your tennis racket? I want to play with Priscilla. No, you can't use anything of mine. Not ever. I'm so mad at you.
Man, Susan is a hair-trigger rage machine.
I don't think one educational short could fix what's wrong with her.
Jump rope. She didn't play fair.
Oh, now, wait a minute. Let's talk it over. Susan, tell me all about it.
And this time, no biting and swearing.
Susan is getting rid of her anger. Angry feelings should be gotten rid of one way or another, but always without hurting someone else.
Always. Narrator, have you ever met Priscilla?
Now,
Monster.
What made Paul angry, and what happened to him?
Boy, I bet this plane will fly for 5 minutes. Better fly longer than Pete.
Yeah, but Pete made his plane out of old roofing tiles, so aim higher.
Don't break it. That's Pete. Boy, wait till Pete gets here. We can take him out and fly him all around.
Now go take the safety guards off that jigsaw.
Hi, Pete. Look at the plane.
Pete,
Aren't they wonderful? Come on, let's go.
I'm not going to fly planes today.
So this is the Pete that Paul wouldn't shut up about, huh? Paul, get out into the wider world and meet more people, son.
Besides that, Jack said I could play first base. We can fly planes tomorrow.
You're a heck of a guy. First you promise, then you break your promise.
Oh, so what?
Look, I'm a grown man with a wife and a job. Why am I playing with you at all?
And disappointment have made Paul furiously angry. Things like this happen to all of us, and we're pretty likely to get angry.
And in our anger, put on a dumb hat.
For a moment, Paul stopped and thought about going to the gym, where he hears Mr. Jackson working with a punching bag. But then he decided he didn't feel like going to the gym or like watching Mr. Jackson. So he went home.
Home with its pointless, rage-inducing railing in front of his front door.
Well,
How'd you like to be reneutered?
Like Susan, Paul wished he could forget his anger. But the more he thought about Pete, the angrier he got.
Yeah, me too. The guy gambled on baseball while managing the Reds. There's no excuse for that.
Not Pete Rose, Mike.
Sorry.
You can see he didn't feel much like playing baseball. Nothing seemed like fun. The anger was still in him.
It was time to go to YouTube comments and tell classical violinists they're ugly.
He felt thoroughly upset.
Are we seeing Charles Starkweather's origin story?
Perhaps we can understand better how Paul felt if we understand what happens to all of us when we get angry.
But first, let's get closer to Paul's face.
No!
It's as if suddenly many parts of our body work harder and faster. We feel great excitement. Hearts beat faster, and the blood seems to rush quicker through the body.
Two weird razor-sharp protrusions grow from the bottom of our rib cage.
Our face gets flushed. Sometimes blood rushes to the stomach. Anger makes us feel sick all over.
Yeah, Lewis Black is
Sometimes
constantly
we clench
throwing
our
up.
fists or bite our nails. Often we feel as though we were like kettles filled with steam. The angrier we get, the stronger the pressure inside of us.
I'm a little teapot, short and stout. I'll cut you, man. I'll swear I'll take you out.
Pressure out. When Susan got angry at Carol in the park, she got all stirred up inside. And when Paul got angry at his friend Pete, he too felt as though he were boiling over with anger.
But in a way that was really pretty chill.
But when Susan went home, she didn't let her anger out. And Paul made the same mistake. You can see that Susan and Paul would have felt better if they had found a good way to let the steam off sooner.
Punching someone weaker would have been a healthy
It is
outlet.
important to let out our angry feelings. Let's think of some different ways of getting rid of them. One way would have been for Susan to tell Carol right away that she was furious at her.
Then they could agree. Pistols at dawn.
Then she might have gone on turning the rope and waiting for her turn to jump.
Bringing peace to their cult of girls who dress like Strega Nona.
Perhaps Susan would have jumped so hard that she could have jumped higher and better than she ever had. And the girls would have admired her for doing so well.
Jumping on your head, Carol. Jumping on your head, Carol.
Or Susan could have looked for her mother as soon as she came home and told her all about her trouble. Talking difficulties over with friends, parents, homeroom teachers, or
Parole officers.
are good ways to get rid of anger. If Susan had tried any of these ways, she would have let her anger out and pleasant feelings would gradually have returned. Susan then would have soon forgotten her troubles and gone on playing.
Lulling Carol into complacency, then secretly calling the police to have her house swatted
Now,
2 weeks
Let's see
later.
what Paul might have done to get rid of his anger. When he passed by the gym, he might have entered.
And began a whole new life on the dance team.
Hi, Mr. Jackson.
Hi, Paul. Boy, it sure feels good to get the old muscles loosened up again. But I thought you were going to be flying your model plane this afternoon.
I'm weirdly aware of all students' afternoon
How'd
plans.
that happen?
We were just about to fly our planes when Pete decided to play baseball.
My wife said the same thing when
boy,
she
look at
left
the
me.
Had Paul started talking to Mr. Jackson as soon as Pete left him, or even decided to punch the bag, his disappointment and anger would have dissolved, and he would have begun to feel better right then.
Yes, give in. Violence is the one true way.
Use those oven mitts, kid.
Perhaps as Paul pounded the bag, he might have thought it was Pete. Every swing was a swing at Pete. Do you think that would have helped Paul get rid of his anger?
There's no tooth fragments or blood flying out of that bag. He needs the real Pete.
Anyhow, with his feelings taken out on the punching bag, Paul may have found that he wasn't angry anymore.
Model planes, what a pansy.
That evening, Pete telephoned Paul to apologize for changing plans without talking first with Paul.
Or his framed pet drawings.
He knew that he'd been wrong. When Paul told him how angry he'd been, Pete asked if he could come right over and work with Paul on their airplanes.
Then immediately canceled.
Good time together after all. There are other ways, too, of getting rid of anger. For instance, see what Eddie is doing?
Manifesto?
He is getting rid of his anger by drawing a picture of his aunt, who a few hours before had scolded him.
Oh, Olive Oil and Popeye made a horrible baby.
His mother isn't home yet, so he can't talk to her. But he can make a funny picture of his aunt, and that makes him feel better.
Taping it to her fridge and mailing copies to all her friends will make him feel even better.
His anger. Perhaps you, like Carol, can imagine dreaming up a story about animals or people that would help you get the anger out of your system.
If not, try mutilating animals on your front lawn
Get rid
instead.
of anger.
Narrator?
They free us so that we can start having fun again.
Die, Aunt Mildred, die! Whee!
You
Fun!
see, the important thing is to let out our anger in some active way. By running, or jumping, or hitting the punching bag.
Or jumping the punching rope.
But we must be sure that we don't hurt or make others angry. Because if we remember what happens inside of us when we get angry, we'll be more careful about making others angry.
Do ugly drawings of them. People love
When we get
that.
angry, we'll think of the best ways to work our anger out of our system.
Total collapse. Got it.
Can you remember some of the good ways that helped Susan and Paul get rid of their anger? What would you have done if you'd been Paul or Susan?
My vengeance shall be spoken of in ages to come.
Don't forget to punch a bag of your aunt.
It's time for RiffTrax.
Copyright by RiffTrax, all rights reserved.